Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of June 10th. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Looking for a career change? The city is currently seeking an Assistant Director of Grants and Administration, an Office Coordinator, and a Finance Director. Do any of these positions interest you? The city offers rewarding career opportunities, a positive environment, and fantastic benefits. Apply or view these opportunities at lspeople.net. Have a love for nature, specifically the pollinators of our environment, such as butterflies and bees? Come on out to the Pollinator Festival this Saturday, June 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Longview Community Center. Join local nonprofit organizations committed to protecting and supporting pollinators and their ecosystems with family-friendly learning and engaging activities for all ages. And mark your calendars for Legacy Blast on July 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. at Legacy Park. Gates open at 6 p.m. and the fireworks show begins at 9:30 p.m. Tune into 94.9 KCMO during the show for music choreographed to the fireworks. Concessions, food trucks, and more will be at the sports venue surrounding Legacy Park before the show. Be sure to arrive early to join in on the fun. Learn more at lsparks.net. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Also for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook, just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station. And the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better. And that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we have doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You can see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back into that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care and the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
I am Fred DeMoro. I represent District 4. I've been on the council for 4 years, just completed 4 years. They were good 4 years, a lot to do. And prior to that, I was on the Charter Review Commission. Prior to that, I spent 7 years on the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission is actually the advising body to the City Council for land issues and development issues. I've always been interested in the city, and I actually, a current council member is the one that gave me the urge to, or push to actually join the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to get more involved. I think he got tired of me asking questions all the time, so he said, let's put him to work. The one thing that we are passionate about, or I'm passionate about, is reducing the burden of property taxes on our residents, and by that we have to attract more commercial development to get those commercial property taxes, commercial sales taxes involved. And as a trickle-down theory, that actually reduces the burden on residents. It sort of move from a bedroom community to a more diverse community tax base. I am Public Works Chairman, and we actually found money for a stormwater rate study Now, what that will do is we will have a consultant come in and tell us how to actually enact or enable a stormwater rate to build a fund for being proactive on stormwater issues. We have a lot of stormwater issues in Lee Summit. We're surrounded by water. We're surrounded by lakes and river and things like that. And that is a big accomplishment. I know the Public Works chairmans before me had always tried to get that forward, and we finally did. And right now I think we've got an RFP for a consultant. And it's important to remember that we have to keep our infrastructure up, and that's just not stormwater and/or water utilities. That's curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and everything like that. I've been a resident since 1986, and when I moved in 1986, it was a small town, small city. And it is very interesting to have seen everything happen since 1986. And we have grown immensely. Citizen involvement is very important. I think that it makes us a better community. There are all kinds of people out there that have really great ideas that would fit well in our boards and commissions. And really, it's minimal time invested. They would be surprised of what they can do, the good they can do in a short amount of time. One meeting a month or one meeting every quarter, and really move things forward. And then, help the council with the idea of what the community is actually needing and saying, and that's always important too. 2024 Public Works Committee. Roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Here.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Present.
Councilmember Rader,
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
Chair,
Councilmember.
I would move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, a second by Councilmember Rader to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda? I do have a change, but
Oh, well, then you better change it before
I
we
better
approve
change it. Item D, TMP 2991, we're going to remove that. There was some documents from MoDOT that did not get here, so that will be removed to July.
Okay, and
So
it doesn't
yes.
have anything to do with E?
Yeah, that one will go through.
Okay.
So I do have an amended agenda, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Chair, I would move to approve the agenda as amended, removing item D.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Again, motion by Councilmember Carlisle, a second by Councilmember Rader for the amended agenda. Roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, public comments. Do we have any public comments? I see no public here, so I will move on. First order of business, approval of the May 13th, 2024 Public Works Committee action letter.
Chair,
Yes,
I
Councilman.
would move to approve the May 13th, 2024 Public Works Committee action letter.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Rader to approve the May 13th, 2024 Public Works Committee action letter. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. That is, that motion passes. Next up, TMP 3026, an ordinance awarding the bid for Project 796 for the curb repair FY25 program to Phoenix Concrete LLC in the amount of $2,899,311.82 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Vince Schmager.
Good evening, Vince Schmager, Project Manager. Tonight I have before you for consideration is the approval of the contract for the yearly curb replacement program. This program will replace a little over 87,000 linear feet of curb, about 16 and a half miles, and bring up 106 sidewalk ramps to current ADA standards. Project was advertised on May 8th, and Phoenix Construction Concrete LLC came in as our low bidder and our bidder of preference. The curb repair program, it's going on about 20 years now, and we've replaced a little over 300 miles of curb. The crux from this started in the mid-'80s. Some of it stretched back to the late '70s with concrete. The limestone was a softer limestone, absorbed water, and then it pops, cracks, deteriorates, becomes gravel. So the concrete we're using going back has a more durable aggregate, as in granite, and is a longer lasting, harder concrete. So we got about 20 years of that to replace, or 600 miles. So we're about halfway there. This program, we've set it up over the years as it's a setup for, as streets are coming up for mill and overlay programs, we evaluate the curbs. If the curbs we feel need to be replaced ahead of the mill and overlay, just because of some of the construction process in the curb actually tears up the streets a little bit, we do that a year in advance. So streets on this year's curb program will be on next summer's mill and overlay program. With that, if you got any questions, I'm sure I left out 12 things.
Any questions from council? I don't have any questions. I'm always happy for this program. So with that, I will,
Chair,
yes.
I would move TMP 026, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 796 for curb repair FY25 program to Phoenix Concrete LLC in the amount of $2,899,311.82 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same be forwarded to council for adoption.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Rader, moving TMP 30026 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
That motion passes. Moving on to the City Council. Next up, TMP 3027, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 576-9C for the East Fork Little Blue Area 2 Stormwater Project to Infrastructure Solutions LLC in the amount of $1,112,852 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Karen Quackenbush.
Good evening, Karen Quackenbush, Senior Staff Engineer. The project was designed by Alger Martin and Associates. It was publicly advertised on April the 24th, and in accordance with local policies and state statutes. We received 4 bids for the project. Infrastructure Solutions was found to be the lowest and most reliable bidder. The primary components of construction include excavation of a floodplain bench, improvements. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Chair, I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, Councilmember Rader.
I just got back from training, so I've learned a lot of things, and I have a question.
Okay.
When you put out for bids, Infrastructure Solutions was your choice for the bid, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you typically use the same vendors, subcontractors, or is it just you just throw it out there and it's whoever gives you the low bid?
It is the low bid. We receive bids. There are some rules that they have to follow with documents that they have to upload onto Quest in order for us to open their bid. So the bid form has to be the right form. We don't accept AIA bids, and so.
What's an AIA? What'd you
know.
call it? You don't accept
Michael
those?
can maybe allude to that. I'm not.
Yeah, American Institute of Architecture. It's a different set of bid documents. We use the EJCDC form of construction bid documents that we purchase. They've been through our law department and found acceptable for the city's procurement of construction contracts. And so as she just indicated, we advertise this opportunity for bid. They must follow the instruction to bidders, sign off on any addenda, complete the form, submit the proper bonds, insurance, all those requirements for it to be a qualified bid, and we will only open qualified bids. All others will remain sealed, and then we take the best, lowest bid at that point received.
So I figured that, but I thought I would ask because that was one thing that they drilled into our heads about it being the lowest bid. But the lowest bid is not always the best bid. I mean, it depends on the qualifications. So that's a big piece of your decision.
We are not required to award it to the lowest bid. In the event that we have some problematic history or some other reason, we would make our case as to why, and we would make that case here and to the council as to why we are not recommending award to the low bid, if that were the case. That would be extremely rare, and in fact, I don't recall the last time we had been under that circumstance, but we do not have to award it to the lowest bid, that we are able to award on lowest and best.
That's good. So that was for my knowledge. And Ryan, I think you got something you want to tell me.
So I was just going to add on the AIA documents. We do use the AIA documents on a very sparingly basis, depending upon the type of projects, particularly our facilities projects currently that we've modified moving forward. So just different contract document types, but we typically use the EJCDC for all of our infrastructure projects.
Thank you.
I'll also say that, anytime I receive that low bid from the contractor, they also submit a qualifications, and They submit documents with references. I can call those references, and I have called those references in the past, especially if it's a contractor that I'm not familiar with. And, you know, I've never had to throw anybody out and go to the next bid, but we do have a process in place where we can look up their references and things like that to ensure the quality of the work.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome. Karen, I do have a question. In case anybody's watching and for my own personal interest, because I probably will get phone calls as soon as they see equipment show up and everything. Which end of the street is going to begin, or do you even know that yet?
Where is the contractor going to begin the work? We do not know that
Okay.
yet. Once we award it, we'll get a schedule.
Okay,
I'm happy to share that with you.
Okay,
That you could then share with any of the residents.
yeah, I will. Yeah,
For sure.
if I get phone calls, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I won't. And the other thing, the shelving, that's going to be going on simultaneously, right? The street work and all or maybe not, you don't know.
I don't know. I really don't. We do not dictate means and methods, nor do we necessarily dictate in what order they
Right.
do the project. And so we do review the schedule, and we can comment on their schedule. That's about it.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll await the schedule or whatever you send me.
For
That'd
sure.
be great. Thank you.
We will have a schedule from them, and we can share it with you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions? Looking for a motion then.
Chair, I move to forward to council for approval TMP-3027, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 576-9C for the East Fork Little Blue Area 2 Stormwater Project to Infrastructure Solutions LLC in the amount of $1,112,852 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Rader, a second by Councilmember Carlisle, moving TMP 3027 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on that motion? Roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. That motion, or that bill passes. Thank you. TMP, next is TMP 3024, an ordinance approving modification number 5 to an agreement for professional engineering services for the prior road improvements from Longview Road to Hook Road, RFQ 2020-046, between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Trans Systems Corporation for an increase of $76,272 with an amended not to exceed amount of $1,540,125, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Sarah Boschert.
Hi, Sarah Boschert, Senior Staff Engineer. So tonight I have a modification to the design contract for the prior road improvements project from Hook Road to Longview Road. This modification would allow our design consultant, Trans Systems, to design a grade-separated trail crossing for the proposed Mouse Creek Trail, which will cross the prior road corridor in this area. The crossing was originally analyzed and determined to be the best option for safety and continuity of the trail, but was determined to be out of the original budget of the project. So as such, the trail crossing is currently shown at grade at the Prior Road and Hook Road intersection, where this modification will allow Trans Systems to design the trail crossing as a tunnel underneath Prior Road. The reason we're adding this to the project now is because both the Parks Department and the Public Works departments have secured additional federal funding through grants, allowing city staff to allocate local funding for the trail crossing at this point in the project. So allowing Trans Systems to design the trail crossing will allow the city to coordinate construction of both the Prior Road project and the trail crossing project, which will result in cost savings and additional efficiencies due to fewer road closures and just allowing those projects to be constructed in coordination. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Questions from the council?
Okay, Sarah, so help me understand. When it says for an increase of 76,272 with an amended not to exceed amount. So was the $1,540,000. So was that the original amount, the $1,540,000 that was proposed for this project? I don't, so just please help me understand that.
Yeah, so that will be the revised total for this contract. We're adding the 76,000 for this tunnel design, resulting in a new total of
The new total of
1.5.
$1,540,000.
Yes, correct.
Was there an amount budgeted for that? And then, I know you said the increase came because you got the money to do that. And so that was where that money came from. It wasn't ever, the original wasn't $1,540,000.
Right.
The amount, okay.
It'd be that minus the
Okay,
76,
I got you.
272, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand all this, so thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Well, any other questions? Nope. I will look for a motion then.
Here.
Yes, Councilmember Carlo.
I would move TMP 3024, an ordinance approving modification number 5 to an agreement for professional engineering services for the prior road improvements from Longview Road to Hook Road, RFQ number 2020-046, between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Trans-Systems Corporation for an increase of $76,272 with an amended not to exceed amount of $1,540,125 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same for adoption.
I second. Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Rader, moving TMP 3024 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. And the bill passes. Thank you. Next up, TMP 2985, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a work order in accordance with the city's on-call construction services agreement with TC Fuller Construction, LLC, for the installation of T's and replacement.
We have several water lines which serve water from our purchase points into the city. Some of these are made of pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. Pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe is a concrete pipe around a metal lining, and then with a steel cylinder, and then wrapped in some more concrete and some pre-stressing wires. The strength of the pipe comes from the pre-stressing wires. If the wires fail, the pipe fails. All right. So you can get an idea of the condition of that pipe by running various tools through it. Our choice of tools on this is a platform called Pipe Diver. Pipe Diver is a free swimming platform. It goes through, it sends out electromagnetic pulses. The pulses excite the wires. They tell us the condition of the wires. All that's good. That is handled through Pure Technologies and is working with HDR Engineering. All right, so you have to get that tool inside the pipe. This construction contract is with TC Fuller. They're an on-call of ours. And we had them and another one of our on-calls look at it and give us costs to do some work to create some points to insert this. The line we're doing is our Maybrick service. It is a 1961 pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe which runs from north of the Little Blue River at our connection point with Independence through Oaks Ridge Meadows and then down along Maybrick Road to our pump station below the Raintree Dam. All right. There's several valves in there. It's a smaller diameter pipe. This one's only a 16-inch. So this thing can only get through certain types of valves, through certain bends. This contract will go through and take care of the spots where it can't navigate it with that kind of valve and that kind of stuff. So they'll go in and replace some valves for us, create some insertion points, and do the associated work for construction for the insertion and retrieval of this device. Happy to take any questions you might have on it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions from the council?
Okay, you want me to do it? I move to forward to council for approval TMP-2985, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a work order in accordance with the city's on-call construction services agreement, contract 2024-057-1 with TC Fuller Construction LLC for the installation of Ts and the replacement of valves to complete the Maybrook water main inspection in the amount of $322,710.70, and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Rader, a second by Councilmember Carlisle, moving TMP 2985 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next up, TMP 3005, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of revenue anticipation note from the State of Missouri Lead Service Line Inventory Loan Program, Series 2024, in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $153,000, prescribing the form and details of the note and authorizing certain other actions and documents in connection therewith. Mr. Thorne again.
Thank you. Jeff Thorne, Deputy Director, Water Utilities. I will simplify this as best I can. There are new rules on lead and copper handed down through us from the federal government, from the EPA. That means we have to have an inventory in October to send in to them. Previously, you approved a contract with an engineering firm. They're going to do that work, and they're going to do it for an amount that we've approved, real similar to what you'll see in these documents. What we've got going forward is we've opted to take advantage of the state loan program because there are grant funds tied to it. Currently, water utilities carry zero debt. When we get done with this, we'll carry zero debt. We could cash flow this program. But there are some grant monies available. We decided to go ahead and try to collect those, and we did. So in order to get that, we do have to take out the note because that's part of the program, and we have to do that. And the reason it's a revenue anticipation note, because we really don't have any bonds set up for us to borrow against right now. And honestly, it threw DNR for a bit of a loop too. And we said, well, they're like, you could put this against whatever you bond against. Well, we don't. But we do have the revenue anticipation note, so there's a bunch of documentation here that talks about that. But what this is a way for us to collect the grant money so that we can continue this on. We're kicking off the program with the engineer basically tomorrow anyway, but this will finalize our paperwork for the note part of this so that we can collect the grant piece. Any questions?
Any questions? Councilmember Carlisle.
So how much is the grant, do you know? Is it the 153?
It's $102,500.
Any other questions? Jeff, on this same note, not exactly on the note, but you know, as you did say, we did approve a contractor to do the work, the excavations and replacements or whatever, the assessment.
Yep.
I was wondering, after that last meeting, do you know of any, talk about grants or programs that will help homeowners that are going to be affected recoup or recover some of their costs in that lead pipe situation, if it's from, you know, from the main to their house?
I don't have any data on that currently, but I would anticipate there'll be some movement towards that because in Lee Summit there'll be some, but obviously at the time the lead service lines were put in, Lee Summit was quite small. When you talk about the St. Louis's and the Kansas Cities, it's a whole different animal for them. And I would anticipate there'll be some on that. I can certainly look into it and see what's out there, but currently I'm not aware of any.
I appreciate that because predominantly, as we spoke earlier, it's going to be the downtown area and the older sections of town.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there's usually economic restrictions.
Yep.
To say the least. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
You bet.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Looking for a motion, please.
Here.
Carlo.
Thank you. I would move TMP 3005, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a revenue anticipation note, State of Missouri Lead Service Line Inventory Loan Program, Series 2024, in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $153,000, prescribing the form and details of the note, and authorizing certain other actions and documents in connection therein, be moved to the full council for approval.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Rader, moving TMP 3005 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
That is, that bill passes, moving to the full council. Next up, TMP 3007, an ordinance approving modification number 6 to the on-call agreement for environmental professional engineering services yearly contract, original RFQ number 2020-061, renewal 2020-061, R4, between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Stearns, Conrad, and Schmidt Consulting Engineers doing business as SCS Engineers for the amount not to exceed $158,260 for an annual task associated with Resource Recovery Park FY 2025, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same. Dave Lowe.
Dave Lowe, Engineering Manager. This is for task, the annual task for the Resource Recovery Park with SCS. Our engineers, our on-call engineer. We are in a post-closure stage right now at the landfill. We have been for kind of a couple or 3 years now. But that doesn't mean our responsibilities end. They go on and could go on as many as 25 or 30 years. So Missouri Department of Natural Resources has regulations that require extensive sampling, data analysis, engineering reports that we have to comply with every year. Some of these tasks are related to engineering support regarding groundwater, leachate, gas system, stormwater sampling. So it's a variety of things, and it could be something is even unforeseen repairs that need to happen out there. So, and future planning. So that's what this is for, the annual services at the landfill.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any questions? Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Chair. So this $158,000, is that just what it costs for them to do those testings every year and give us a report, basically?
Yeah, that's for their engineering or professional services that they have to do out at the landfill, yes.
Yeah, but that's all of them for the whole year, right?
That's a maximum not to exceed amount.
Okay.
Up to this point, and I've been doing this contract about 10 years, we never reached that maximum.
Okay.
So it's...
Okay, great. So this is for all the testing, but if they were to find something and have to do additional testing, is there enough cushion in there for that, or would you have to come back to us?
They have one line item for the task is on-call services. So that's kind of a cushion for like repairs and things like that they have to make. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion now.
Chair, I move to forward to council for approval TMP-3007, an ordinance approving modification number 6 to the on-call agreement for environmental professional engineering services yearly contract, original RFQ number 2020-061, renewal 2020-061 R4, between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Stearns, Conrad, and Schmidt Consulting Engineers, Inc., doing business as SCA Engineers for an amount not to exceed $158,260 for annual tasks associated with the Resource Recovery Park for fiscal year 2025, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Rader, a second by Councilmember Carlisle, moving TMP 3007 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Thank you. The bill passes. Next up, TMP 3025, an ordinance approving the award of RFQ 2024-064 for professional engineering services for the engineering, design, and construction administration of pump stations, and an agreement for professional engineering services for the Jacomo Pump Station Study Project to HDR Engineering, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $100,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same. Jeff Thorne.
Jeff Thorne, Deputy Director, East Summit Water. I bring before you the award of an engineering contract. All right, so it says on here RFQ, so I'm going to get ahead of Cinda, and I'm going to say RFQ is request for qualifications. So per the state law for professional services, we go out for request for qualifications. So when we put out a study or an engineering design, it's selected on a qualifications-based basis, and then it is negotiated in cost. So we don't get a number when we get the packages. We just go through their scope of services, their understanding of the project, who they're going to use to run the project, all that kind of stuff, and then score those. On this project, we sent it out for qualifications. We got 3 firms to submit. We reviewed those 3 firms, and we determined HDR Engineering, Inc. was the best for this. HDR does have a great deal of background in this. They did do our wastewater master plan. They do have a great understanding of the system up here and have looked at this very closely and had an impressive submittal. All right. The area we're talking about is outlined in pink there. There's an area in the north part of town adjacent to 470 and between 470 and Lake Jacomo north of Colburn Road, which is unsewered. It is unsewered because there are no sewers below Lake Jacomo. There are sewers below Blue Springs Lake, strangely enough, so they can gravity out. Under Lake Jacomo, there are none, so it requires pumping. So the addition of pump stations for potential development has been brought up and was looked at and contemplated even in our wastewater master plan. This study will help to support that. The pump stations have been reviewed from a high level, both by our staff and in the wastewater master plan. This will go further into siting, looking at flows, reviewing some geotechnical information, laying out where force mains might go, reconfirming that the downstream sewers are all properly available for it, and putting together a tighter cost package on this so that we can look at the effects of it should development come. The pace of development is depending on the landowner there. I would anticipate that this, if they hold true to their word, that this will roll into a design project, and when that comes, we'll bring it back forward for the modification of the contract to go to a design level and not just a study level. This is to handle for 2 pump stations, one in this area here and one in this area here. As you can see by the tree growth in that's where the low points of the ground are. That's where the ground naturally drains to, and then it'll be pumped out of there. The nice part of this is we do have an existing pump station up at the top of this draw here. That is the oldest pump station in our system and would be retired as part of this and would be gravity down to that new pump station. So it would be a net gain of 1 pump station in our system. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Have any questions?
Matt.
All right.
So Jeff, that's interesting, because I thought HDR was just they were like a consulting, which I guess they are, aren't they? They're kind of a twofold business. I mean, they're a great company.
They are an engineering consulting firm, so they won't be doing any construction out here. They will be doing the study, and then probably if the pace holds, we'll roll into design with them and potentially some construction management, it being vertical construction and mechanical, electrical type construction. Our CIP inspectors are more used to roads and pipes and linear construction than they are vertical.
So we'll need to hire another construction company then to do.
At some point, there'll be a construction contract out of this, hopefully.
Do you have any idea how much that's going to cost? Any idea?
For the 3 pump stations, because there's another one north of this that's necessary, but it isn't in the near term. We had an estimate at about $21 million. So for the southern 2, being the 2 largest of the pump stations, we're probably in the $15 million range.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, progress finally on this property. That's the first step,
That's, it's moving right along.
moving right along. So I will look for a motion.
Chair, I would
Yes.
move TMP 3025, an ordinance approving the award of RFQ number 2024-064 for professional engineering services for the engineering, design, and construction administration of pump stations and an agreement for professional engineering services for the Jacomo Pump Station Study Project to HDR Engineering, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $100,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Rader, moving TMP 3025 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Thank you. Bill passes on to the city council. Next up, 2023-5984, resolution authorizing municipal airport powered paraglider operating guidelines. This is the fun one.
Right. That's what they always say about the airport.
Yeah.
Good evening, Joel Arrington, Airport Manager. This resolution establishes the powered paragliders. You'll hear me refer to them as PPG. So when I say that, just it's the powered paragliders. Operating guidelines at the Lee Summit Airport. These guidelines have been developed cooperatively with both staff and members of the community. And one of them is here tonight, Mr. Brian Shelton, who's one of the PPG pilots. And who will be instrumental in kind of the implementation of this plan on down the road. Also, Mike Anderson and myself was on there as well. And a lot of thanks goes out to Jeff Pinfield, although he's not with the city anymore, was very instrumental in giving this team kind of a path forward through this process and acting as kind of the intermediary between the two parties to work out all the the various issues that we have. So special thanks to Jeff for that. So just a little bit of background on this. The PPG operations started in early 2022. To the best of my recollection of seeing them out there, they're normally out there late of an evening or very early in the morning, mainly because there's very low wind and they need very light winds in order to fly. But as the airport began to get a little bit busier, it was very obvious that there weren't any guidelines in place, and they were requesting access to other parts of the airport. It was a really good time to put some guidelines in place, really for everyone's benefit. That way, the PPG operators knew where they could be and where they couldn't be, and the local pilots will know where they're going to be and where they're not going to be. And you can actually see that in the packet. You can see the kind of the red areas is obviously where they can't be. So part of the development process of these guidelines was first to do a risk assessment, and you'll see that in the packet. You'll see the risk cubes, and you'll see a couple of X's in there. The first X is where we went through as a group, and the airport identified all of the risks that we saw. The PPG pilots went through and identified their risk, and really when we brought all these together, we ended up with probably 10 or 12 of these risks, and some of them we were able to say, well, that's really not a risk, and some of them we were like, well, we can probably combine these, and so I think we ended up with 8 or 9 at the end of the day. The next step was to develop mitigating strategies. So we took a look at each one of these risks and figured out what could we do to reduce the likelihood of these risks occurring. The severity of it, we really couldn't do anything with. The severity is just the severity, and it was high in all of them. But what we focused on was reducing the likelihood of that happening. And you can see the likelihood in the or the change in the likelihood is the line on those boxes. You'll see another X with an arrow pointing to it. And that's where we graded it after we implemented the mitigation strategy. Once we were done with that, we sent these off to the FAA for their comment. And they basically responded that the guidelines that we had put in place weren't in violation of any federal aviation rule out there, which is good. We did take this to BOAC. We actually did it twice. The first time through, they said it needed a little bit of work, so we went back through and incorporated the PPG pilots in to the conversation. And last week, when we took it back through, it was a unanimous agreement that they thought that these were good, and they all agreed that it should continue on. So just some of the, again, the benefits of this is again, just to minimize the likelihood of an incident occurring at the airport between what are generally incompatible operations. When I say incompatible, meaning PPGs and fixed-wing aircraft. One's very fast-moving and one's very slow-moving, and so we're trying to make everybody stay in their space to avoid each other. They'll establish very clear expectations and consistent PPG operations that will help the local guys know, what's going on. And really the big thing is this also is that it's going to minimize the impact to the fixed-wing aircraft. We don't want to do anything that's going to impact the efficiency or the safety of the airport. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Rader.
How many pilots do you have that are PPG pilots?
I'll let Brian answer that.
Okay.
I think there's 2 to 5, but I'll let Brian answer. Yeah. In the Lee Summit.
Hello, my name is Brian Shelton. I'm a pilot, local PPG pilot. Currently, there's about 3 pilots that regularly fly at the Lee Summit Airport with PPG operations. There's additional, probably 2 others that have flown there within the last 6 months or so. And then around the greater Kansas City area, there's somewhere between 80 to 100 pilots that are actively flying this type of aircraft in the local area.
Now, these are all motorized, correct?
It is a motorized form of a non-powered flight, yes.
Okay.
The powered paragliding, yes, is a backpack-worn power plant to provide you thrust to perform a paragliding activity that would normally be done in a mountainous terrain. We don't have mountains here, so the motor provides the propulsion for that.
And you're still using, I Googled these, so you're still using, do you see ultralights? Are the ultralights still out there as well?
This falls within the Federal Aviation's regulation category for ultralights, though that is a broad term that would incorporate or include other aircraft that look different to this. Right. We had originally kind of dove into these procedures to make it an all-encompassing ultralight procedure, but it's just too broad of a spectrum to try to. For these purposes, these rules or procedures were focused directly at powered paragliding operations.
Okay. And these don't have radios, right? There's no radio contact?
Correct. There's no electrical system to the aircraft. There's no onboard radio. However, we do carry a handheld radio akin to a walkie-talkie that's on the aviation van.
Well, and as a comment, I'm really glad you're doing this because I've seen those crash bad.
Yeah.
Not good. So it's good. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing no more questions, I'll look for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move to forward to Council for approval 2023-5984, a resolution authorizing municipal airport-powered paragliders operating guidelines.
Second.
Would be a motion by Councilmember Rader, a second by Councilmember Carlisle, moving the 2023-5984 the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Thank you. That moves that to the full council. Next up, item 2024-5241, the presentation, Fire Station 1, findings from renovation or remodel feasibility study. You're not there.
I'm not Sharon, no. Brian Page, Facilities Manager. I just wanted to give a quick background on this since we do have a couple of new committee members before Mrs. Novak gives her presentation.
Okay.
So a year ago, April, we did 3 no tax increase bond questions we presented to the voters. They voted yes on all. That provided funding for several large-scale projects, one of which was either the renovation, remodel, or tear down and rebuild of our current fire headquarters, Station 1. So I don't know if everybody's aware, but we're currently building a joint operations facility over behind the police department. Fire admin will relocate there, fire protection will relocate there. So Station 1 will just become a working fire station. We'll not have any administrative staff working out of there. So we did a facility condition assessment back in 2021, and Fire Station 1 was by far our worst conditioned facility, and so it's got a lot of needs. So we commissioned with WSKF, entered into an agreement with them to conduct this feasibility study, and Mrs. Novak is here to present the results of that. So just wanted a little background in case you weren't all aware. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, right in here.
Like the great reveal.
All right. As Brian said, I'm Dalen Novak. I'm the president of WSKF Architects. We are in North Kansas City and have been in operation for over, I think, 55 years now. So a little bit, we're going to go through this agenda here, so just so you kind of understand what we're going to talk about today. This is the team that worked on this project, this feasibility study. So the top three people are all people from my office, from WSKF Architects, and then we also had PKMR Engineers, McClure Engineering, and Lane O'Kane as well on this project. Just a little bit about our team. WSKF has over $180 million in fire stations in over 11 states now, doing fire and EMS facility design. So it's our top market at our firm, and something that we really love doing. So we're excited to be on this project. Again, a little bit more about our engineering partners down here as well. They have worked with us on numerous fire station projects, so they have a lot of knowledge as well in terms of fire station design. So the study process that we went through is outlined here, and we're going to go into each of these a little bit in more detail, but just overall, you can see there's quite a few different steps that we went through to make sure we put all of the information out there in terms of, are we going to replace this station, or are we going to be able to renovate this station in place. So you can see we did some user group meetings early on, make sure we understand what it was that they were looking for before we went out to the facility and actually did the studying, because if you don't know what they need it for, how do you assess it? Then we did go out and assess the facility and the site and looked at adjacent buildings and structures. You know, there's a communications tower that's out there as well, so took a look at that. And then we also had a lot of different testings and reporting done on the site as well, so those are all listed there as well and are part of our study. Then we compiled all that information into the feasibility study, which included looking at existing building plans and did some conceptual designs, and I'll show you those here as well this afternoon. And then Newkirk Novak Construction Partners was hired by the city to be the construction manager at risk, so they also have been a part of this whole project. It sat through space programming even, so they understood what the project was, and they've put together some pricing for the project as well. And then we combined all of those things together into one document, which is the feasibility report that we issued not too long ago. So space programming, just so you kind of understand what we were doing here, what is the vision for this new fire station, right? Brian mentioned this is only going to be a fire station. Admin's moving out. The fire station has served for 50 years, so we always try to plan for 40, 50 years for the next station. We want to make sure that it lasts for a very long time. It's going to be standalone, like we mentioned, and then we're always thinking about what the best practices are in fire station design today. So we create this document that lists all the different spaces that are going to be needed, what the requirements of each of those rooms are, what should be in those spaces, how large they need to be. And then at the end, we compile all those spaces, and we came up with the building needs to be about 24,984 square feet. The RFQ, when we were looking to be awarded this project, they said 25,000 square feet, so you can see we're right on target with the amount that they were planning on for this station, which is also really close to the size of the current station as well. When you move out admin, there's enough space for a fire station, but is it going to work properly moving forward? So that's when we then look into this conditions assessment. This building was built in 1974 as a civil defense facility. And then in 2005, it was renovated by my firm. You can see the before and after picture here too. So we've added an exterior skin to it, brick facade, so that it could be modernized to tie in with the City Hall building when that project was done, about the same time frame. Also, there was a little bit of interior design work done, but the interior has a very minimal interior renovation since the day that it became a fire station. So there's a lot of things that need to be improved there. And then facility conditions, my team, as well as all these engineering partners, they all looked at this building in terms of all their different scopes of work, how is this going to function for the project moving forward. And then we think about all those design best practices in terms of fire station design, functionality for the station, turnout times, you know, are they able to use the building as they need to function as best as they can as a firefighter, and then operationally as well. So maintenance and facility operations and those kind of things, how much money are we putting into the building because it's old and outdated, right? We also think about safety and security in the facility, as well as code compliance things. When this was built in '74, they don't have ADA requirements like they do today, is just one topic. So looking at building codes for that. Then also NFPA has standards in terms of how fire stations should be designed and how they need to function. So we look at those as well. And then health and wellness has become a really big topic in terms of fire stations and firefighters' work. So not just decontamination protocol, but mental health and those kind of things. So those are things that we think about as we look at this facility too. And then we also had a lot of discussions with city staff as well as fire staff. So both fire staff in terms of how is this building working for you or how's it not working for you, and then with city staff like Brian Page and Sharon Bloom in terms of things that they know are a deficiency in the building at this point too. So then I was going to show you a little bit about the design options that we looked through. So option 1 was renovate the existing facility. Option 2 was replace and build new. So this is an image of the site. There's 2 other properties that are shown here too. I don't know if I can use the mouse here. Yep. So these 2 are, wow, this mouse is crazy. These 2 are off-site. This parking lot's the edge here, and then the alley is the edge on this side. And that's the fire station right here in the center. City Hall is right here, up here, and then this is the parking garage. So option 1 is to stay in the existing facility. If you've ever been behind the fire station, you know how steep that rear apron is. It is extremely steep. I don't think I've ever seen an apron that steep in all of my years of designing fire stations. So the goal was to reduce the depth of the apparatus bay to around 75 feet. There's a structural column there where we could shorten the building, which would then reduce the slope of the apparatus bay, because with the communications tower, there's really not another way to turn this building to be able to, you know, get access in and out of the site. So looking at how much square footage would be on the lower level, and then the first floor and the second floor. And then we are also looking at adding some auxiliary bays that are currently in the existing parking lot for additional staff vehicles, because if we shorten the bays and what they need in terms of vehicles for this station, it's not going to fit in the current apparatus bay. So those auxiliary bays are going to hold like chief vehicles, the smaller like vehicles like you and I drive, but they still are very much needed for a fire station. We also need to look at some outdoor space, so that's what that green area is. This is a very concrete, you know, downtown construction site, but again, you need to have green space for them so they can, kind of decompress after a fire event, that kind of thing. We're showing generators, locations, and that kind of thing, but this was option 1 that we looked at. And then option 2, as you can see, it looks very similar, but it's a little bit off in terms of where the building's located from where it originally was, especially on that north side. You can see that right through the center of the living quarters portion, right through here. This is the current side of the north side of the building, and we're pushing it out and completely getting rid of all of the parking in this space so that we can provide more space on the support side, which is the south side, and maybe even a little bit of parking here on the alley side still. The farther we push the building to the north, the shallower that slope gets. We're never going to have what we would really like to see on the rear apron in terms of slope because it's just so steep, but this will help reduce it by pushing it more north. And then you can see that we have an outdoor patio space and a fitness area down there on that first level as well. The city sat down with Newkirk Novak and kind of walked through these 2 different options. You can see option 1 on the top and then option 2 on the bottom there, and they assessed the cost for both of those 2 options. The option 1 again was the renovation of the existing facility, and they're estimating right now that it's $19,714,000. They did have a note there in red, though, that they're concerned that structural modifications that are required for this project are not fully accounted for in this project. So to describe kind of what structural is going to say in terms of this building, how to move forward to meet building code, because we're digging into it more than 50%, you have to bring it up to standard codes. And as of 2015 IBC, you have to have a storm shelter, and the requirements in terms of just structural integrity of the building is much stronger than a house or another business, because it's a fire station, right? It's an essential facility. So those things then require different loading, which the building does pass the loading requirements, but it does not pass the seismic requirements. I think seismic earthquakes, right, in Missouri, there are issues with that. And so look at, southeast Missouri, we have a fairly large fault line there. But to get the building that's there now to meet the seismic requirements, we have to take off all the exterior walls, which is the majority of the building, right? I was thinking if we were going to renovate it, we could gut the whole thing and keep the exterior walls, keep the floor plates, it's concrete, and that'd be great. Well, that's not possible. We have to tear off all the exterior walls, even the interior wall that is between the apparatus bay and the living quarters and the office space. You also have to tear out the apparatus bay floor, which we needed to do anyways. It's in poor shape, and we were going to do radiant heat, but to tie the grade beam into the foundations and all of that, again, for seismic requirements. So you're left with a couple floor slabs, and then how are we going to cut through it with plumbing and everything else? It really doesn't make sense. So I would be concerned that this 19.7 is still not high enough. And then the option 2 to replace, we're at 18,299,000. And so the difference just on this that Newkirk Novak found was about $1.4 million. So with that, we are recommending that we replace and build new in the existing location on the existing site. And these are just some of those reasons why. The new needs that we found in the space programming document don't align with the existing building layout where things really should be to function properly in fire stations as of today. Renovation will be more costly, as you saw. Some of those things we haven't talked about for why it's more expensive too is selective demolition. We're going in and just removing portions and parts and not just fully demoing it. Also, the poor structural integrity that I mentioned a little bit ago as well. Functionality concerns, we're looking at efficient use of space, reduced turnout time. So we want to improve those turnout times so they can get to the event that they're going to as fast as possible, and health and wellness. The current station is going to make that really hard to provide those requirements. Operational concerns, pretty much all of the building systems are out of date and unable to be reused, so we'd be gutting all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. There are a couple mechanical units that could be reused, but those are just little units that we would take out and put into the new building and still could be used in this option 2 as well. And then just maintenance and repairs, those kind of things that we talked about. And the report does go into a great detail of those deficiencies. And then again, as I mentioned before, the best practices, apparatus bay dimensions, the apron in the back, health and wellness, those kind of things, and code compliance and NFPA requirements and concerns. So with that, it's a lot of information in a little bit of time here. The actual report's about 32 pages, and then there's a whole bunch of exhibits in there, and with all of those reports and things that I mentioned, we're at like 500 pages. So it's a big read, but we've put in all the effort, and we do really think that the best option is to move forward with replacing the fire station and replacing it in that location.
Thank you. With the replacing, is the demolition in that price too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did include the demolition, yep. They have a bigger breakdown. I just wanted to show you the highlights of that cost, but they do show what those costs are.
All right. Any questions? This is well, I don't want to use the adjective exciting, but it is a well-needed project. It's been needed for a long time, and I'm very happy that the replacement is coming in lower than the remodel, and we.
Yep.
And just in private conversation, we kind of figured that. I mean,
yeah.
It's amazing that it's still functioning right now.
It's in pretty bad shape. Now, when you look at the outside, it looks really nice, but when if you were to take a tour of it and have the fire department show you it, you'd see those deficiencies pretty quick.
So I do appreciate the presentation and the clarity involved.
Great.
So
I would just ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I will. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will. So does either chief have anything to comment on? You all three can come up. You're one, the spokesman, Brian Osterman.
Thank you, Chair. I got the eyes put on me, so I'll come down and just kind of reiterate, we really appreciate the work that's gone into looking at this facility, and Dalen is right, it's been sorely needed for many, many years, and we're very, very appreciative of the fact that it's now in front of us to figure out what we're going to do with this station. I would say that, you know, our scope is pretty well lined out as far as what we anticipate going into the station. One thing that we haven't really gone in detail with is the scale of the project. Like I said, we know what's going to go in, but we didn't want to get too far ahead of the project and really get into those details until this work was done, until the city council had a chance to look at it, discuss, and then we can really get into the finer points on sizing appropriately as far as all the components that are going to go into it. So with that being said, we do appreciate the look and the consideration of replacing. So.
Nice. Gonna look nice.
I just want to comment, no more fire station envy.
Right, correct. So we've made some great advancements in the last few years, and it's to see where we've come from in the last 7 to 8 years to where we are now, and to see this momentum continuing with our facilities. It's a pretty astounding time to be on the fire department. So, thanks.
I just have one question, Brian. Do you guys have a timeline? And I know this isn't all set in stone yet, but do you have a timeline of when this might happen?
Well, I think getting through this hurdle is one of the big things that we need to get through. And I know that there's other conversations about, what is going to look like. The original timeline, when we looked at, hopeful replacement, it was much more aggressive than what I think we're going to see now. Even when we get to a decision on, what the new station looks like, if it's in that location, things of that nature, we're still looking at easy 10 months of design work, and then it gets bid out. So, probably an easy 12-month period after we get to that final decision on budget and location and scope and all those things. So it's still a ways out.
I figured it would be like that, but
Yep.
just wondering. Thank you.
Thank you. You really don't need anything from us, right?
No, that's correct. So kind of the next steps with this was, if there was any feedback that you wanted to provide, we would take that feedback now, and then we're planning on having a conversation with the full city council in the very, very near future. Probably won't be this month, but probably be the first meeting in July.
Yeah. All right. I think we've got a thumbs up anyway, regardless. Yeah, I think it's a good project and appreciate the presentation again. So, yeah, I will say I'm excited. That's fair. Okay. So that leads us into roundtable. You folks have any? Yes, thank you. Nothing? I have nothing. How about you guys, the staff?
I don't have anything for roundtable. No.
Okay. Well, thank you then. And at 5:34, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.